翻嚟 OneNightTalk 嘅 One Guest Talk， 我哋今次咧就會同 Jade Festival 嘅單位合作啦，好開心邀請到音樂人 AIKO TOMI 同我哋訪問下佢做音樂人嘅心路歷程啦，同埋嚟緊嘅 Festival 到底會帶啲咩歌俾我哋。咁我係 Beverley， 今日有
金仔，
同埋我哋有 AIKO TOMI 喺度。Hello， Hi， thanks for having me. No, thanks for joining us. We just want to ask you a few questions, have a chat, get our audience to get to know you. So do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'm AIKO TOMI. I'm an alt-pop singer-songwriter from Toronto, where I'm based in Toronto. And I write mostly in English, but I do speak some Mandarin. That's my mother tongue. And I was born in Taiwan, came to Canada when I was really little. And then, I just love making music, and I'm really happy I'm able to talk to you guys about it today.
咁你會點樣形容你自己嘅音樂呢？ How would you describe your music?
I think my music, I would describe it like alt pop. It's a little bit influenced by hyperpop and electronic music, but ultimately it's pop music. So I'm a classically trained composer, but I really like to have the intersection of like experimental, electronic, and pop music, but also it always touches a little bit on my life experiences. And since I'm Asian, I'm not like purposely trying to write, things about like Asian culture, but because I'm Asian, I live this life, it just comes out in my music lyrically sometimes.
因為我哋都知道AIKO TOMI 嘅背景啦，其實係好有亞洲嘅一啲色彩喺入面。咁我都見到好似喺音樂入面都有融入到落去，所以我都想問一問AIKO TOMI 到底自己呢一個身份點樣去融入到一啲元素落去你嘅音樂入面。So
you mentioned that even though you grew up in Toronto, but there might be some Asian influence in your music. How would you say your identity have been showing in your music? Like, have you been exploring that side, or you just been merging everything into one? How do you reflect that in your music?
So I think, like I said, I grew up very connected with my Asian cultures. So basically I'm Japanese, Chinese from Taiwan, right? So I used to go back and visit all the time. So I think just by virtue of living, having the life experiences that I've had, I was exposed to a lot of that. So no matter what, it filters through. Like, I think every artist, all of their life experiences, like we bring that to our art, and everything that we create filters through those experiences. So even though like I'm not necessarily setting out to create something that's Asian influenced, because I personally am quite Asian influenced, it comes out, in my music, sometimes sonically, sometimes in the like melodic choices that I make, sometimes in the thematic things. Yeah, so it's lyrical, like sometimes just like topics lyrically, sonically. I tend to gravitate towards things that are, quite melodic or sometimes experimental, but sound maybe a little bit like glitchy, like in some Japanese video games or something. And I'm very drawn to sounds of like traditional Chinese instruments. So even though I don't necessarily use those instruments, some of the synthesized like electronic sounds might, call to mind something that sounds similar to maybe a guzheng or just something that sounds a little bit like that sounds a little bit like Asian for some reason. But yeah, I didn't set out to purposely say, hey, I'm gonna make Asian music.
你嘅音樂咧玩味咧係好舊嘅，而你喺舞台上面個視覺效果咧都係好犀利嘅。咁會唔會每一次表演嘅時候，你都會有一個角色俾咗自己咧？ So I was mentioning, your music is so fun, so playful, as you mentioned, very experimental, and even when you get on stage to perform, the visual is very strong. So is there like a character that you play in your head every time you perform, or you just kind of let it out as different song, you play a different character?
So I actually think, how would I say this? Okay, when I first started writing my own songs, so I'm a classically trained pianist and composer, and when I first started, I was singing more like, slow love songs, 像情歌, more, melodic, very, very like, piano vocal based stuff. And it was actually like just before pandemic, I wanted to, I always liked electronic music as well, but just before pandemic, I wanted to create something like a little bit more high energy, because I always felt the way that I approach music before, it's very like 比较斯文 and kind of like elegant and calm, but that's actually, I mean, there is sometimes calmness and of course like thoughtfulness to how I approach music, but I think my actual personality is very high energy. It's kind of like I'm always like jumping around, like, bouncing around all the time. So during pandemic, I think a lot of people, had these little breakthroughs during pandemic. And so my breakthrough at the time was just next time I go on stage, I want to physically be myself. And that means I had to ditch the piano because the piano is such a, it's such a big thing. It kind of roots me and stations me physically, at the keyboard or piano. So by ditching the keyboard and just completely embracing my own physicality, I think, I just think that it's so, what I say,
it's having like no limitation to your like your gesture, how the way you move your body.
It's just your natural self.
Yeah. So I remember because some people like they saw the change, and so some other people would be like, "Oh my God, like how did you do that? How did or what are those moves? Your moves are so interesting." I'm like, dude, I'm not a dancer. I'm not dance, but I'm just moving in my way, and people seem to really resonate with it, and they were just like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's just because now I think the music and my personality are so aligned that it just kind of flows out and it just happens." And I'm not really playing anything. Sometimes I just blank out and I just do, and I don't remember what I did. And sometimes I'll look at a video and be like, "Oh, okay."
I do whenever I listen to your music, they really have the sense of like there's no boundary, there is no limitation. That is the kind of vibe you're giving to your listener. Is there any new project coming up that you get to really push that boundary?
I would say so. So right now I'm working on some new music, and I just released my first mini album. So like my first like full-length album that came out last year, it's called Animals Awake, and that was sort of the main project that I'm like, okay, I have so many things to say with this new energy. Boom, like I had all these things to say. And then this next one that I just dropped called Delulu Demon, it's a 3-song mini album. And this one is a little bit more like thoughtful, or not that the other ones were thoughtful, but this one was kind of, I'm exploring like the dualities of of the human experience, right? So we can often be two things at once at the same time. And that's actually a very real thing, because I think being human and like navigating this life is sometimes not always straightforward. So for example, like Delulu Demon is a song that is talking about ambition, but also in the wish to have ambition, like in the chase after your dreams, you're also feeling this vulnerability of, oh, like what if I don't get it, right? It's like, kind of knowing that things don't last forever, and maybe these dreams are delusional, but it kind of doesn't matter. And then also feeling hopeful, but being like, it's like all these conflicting little things. And then the second song, Violently Kawaii, which is, being both angry and cute at the same time, right? And I think that's something that, especially, I want to say Asian women, but not always. I think it's just humans, right? A lot of the times we're taught to be very polite and like, like don't start fights, just like be quiet, like, be nice. And I think we should, but I think we also kind of, we don't always have the best ways of expressing anger or negative emotions. So sometimes you just kind of keep it inside. You're like,
but have to let it out.
Yeah. But most of the time, we're nice people, right? So we're not going to actually do anything bad. But because we aren't able to express things, sometimes in your imagination, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna like I'm gonna like cartoon shoot you, pew, 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 with lasers, and you just imagine things in your brain. But no one's really getting hurt. It's just funny stuff happening in your imagination. And then the last song, Some Lights Need to Be Dimmed. It's just, it's the feeling of when everything is shining too bright, then you can't see the stars. So it's almost like I'm talking a little bit about, in social media or like in the internet, there's just so much noise. There's always so many things like being blasted in your face all the time. And it makes it really difficult to see which things have meaning, because when things are just being loud and blasted in your face, you have to sift through so much stuff. You have to look through all the stuff to find the thing that has meaning. And so maybe it would be a great idea if we just all quiet it a little bit, and then things that are really meaningful can shine more. So that's like my first little mini album. And then the second mini album that's coming out like end of this year or early next year, I'll be doing them as singles. It's more of like high energy, fun dance songs. And then the third one that's going to be coming out in the spring is going to be sort of like fantasy and dreamlike. So it's like these three little moods that I'm working on.
So you're constantly working on your music.
Trying to.
Yeah, that was great.
咁我哋都問翻啲同 Jade Music Festival 有關嘅嘢，就係想睇下佢嚟緊，睇下 AIKO TOMI 嚟緊會有啲咩帶到俾我哋咧。Can you tell me more about what you expect to bring to us in the Jade Music Festival?
Jade Music Festival. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bringing a little bit of the OG songs. I'm going to bring a couple of the new songs and then a couple of unreleased songs. So it'll be a little mix of, it's a little tasting. I don't know. It's kind of like dim sum, right? Like you just have a little here, a little bit that, a little bit that. So it'll be that. And hopefully it'll just be the same. I just always want to bring the feeling of freedom of expression, and hopefully it will give audiences just hopefully audiences, if they feel that I'm being really free, they in turn will also feel, maybe seen and understood, and also like free to express themselves. That's like my greatest hope.
感覺上就係你嘅音樂好想同你嘅聽眾一齊行一個 journey 咁樣啦，即係你感受緊嘅一種 energy， 你都想將個 energy 係我哋都一齊感受，即係我哋一齊同你跳啦，我哋同你一齊同你幻想一啲嘢啦，跳出嗰個框架啦，咁成個過程係會好好玩。但係你嚟到溫哥華，有冇諗過話都會有一啲中文嘅創作咧？始終係一個華人面孔嘅音樂會啦，嚟緊會唔會話嘗試用中文去創作一啲嘢咧？ I was just mentioning, it seems like you really want to take your listener on a journey with you. Like whatever energy you bring into us, you want us to come match you with your energy, enjoy the show, enjoy your performance. Just the fact that you're coming to Vancouver and it's going to be a more Asian-based performing festival. Is there any idea of maybe trying to perform in Chinese or Japanese? Yeah. Is there any plan for that?
So a lot of my songs, some of my songs I'll be adding a couple of lines of Mandarin to it, and I know everyone does this. I know everyone sings this song, but like I'm going to make a cover of that, but just sort of in my own style. So
that'd be so cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, we look forward to that.
So always it's just like I just really hope that the audience has fun and feels like a nice I just want to bring good energy, good vibes, and hopefully people have fun.
所以我哋嚟緊咧就要期待一下 AIKO TOMI 嘅新嘅 album 啦，我哋啱啱有講過會有3部曲啦，亦都會有啲單曲啦，聽落去咧係差唔多每一個季節都有唔同嘅一個唔同嘅風格喺入邊。咁我哋都好期待你會過嚟，好快就會嚟到我哋溫哥華啦，11月7號嘅演出，跟住 Jade Festival Music。咁到時除咗 AIKO TOMI 之外，亦都會有其他華人面孔嘅音樂人啦，去表演到佢哋嘅音樂嘅。
We're so anticipated.
We're really excited to have you in Vancouver. We're really looking forward to having you here, especially for a festival that really promoted Asian culture as well. I just also mentioned we look forward to your album. It really sounds like you have different theme coming up with all season. So we're going to have you with us winter, summer, spring, autumn. We look forward to your we look forward to all your new work and project. So
thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for coming on to our show. It's so nice to have you.
Really inspired by your music style, and yes, there's a lot of elements and a lot of message in it, and yeah.
I'm sure our audience in Vancouver is looking forward to having you here. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you on the 7th.
Yeah, you make it.